This Sunday is something Pitt fans have waited a long time for. A chance to win a championship at home. Will Pitt finally exorcise the demons of Cincinnati in 2009 and Miami in 2003? We discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today. Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is. There's one hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world! Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of November 20th, 2021. And this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
2 games to go, a championship within reach. The U went down last week, but who cares, Vince? All focus is on Virginia this week. Pitt with the opportunity of a lifetime. ACC Coastal and a winnable ACC championship game on the horizon. I can't believe we're here, but we are. You picked them to lose last week, and if it weren't for the heavens above, you would have been right.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Beano Cook crying up there and sending down all that rain, maybe Pitt wouldn't be in this position right now, but they are. That's what it's all about. This Saturday, 3:30, the Who's coming to town for a chance at that ACC Coastal Championship. Pitt with the opportunity to clinch it, punch their ticket to Charlotte. Big time game this Saturday.
I mean, the feeling is so different from Pitt and winning the Coastal just a handful of years ago, where you knew in the end, the Coastal, sure, yeah, of course. But then it was just going to be a total mud hole stomping against Clemson. But now Pitt can win the Coastal and maybe win the whole ACC in a game against Wake Forest, most likely.
Or Clemson, maybe.
Or Clemson again.
Or NC State. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about the different configurations, but Pitt is in the driver's seat. It's a different kind of position, but a damn good one to be in. We will recap, though, the UNC game from last week, because I know the Virginia game is so big, Vince, but I still can't stop talking about the win over North Carolina. It is unbelievable how it went down. It was the most Pitt game and also the least Pitt game at the same time to me. We'll get into all of it on this week's podcast. First up, at H2P Shows on Twitter, where everybody can hail to Pitt with us on social media. And of course, you can email us, hail2pitpodcast@gmail.com. That's hail the number 2, pitpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate all the feedback we get on social media and the email. And of course, when we're hitting you up and you're hitting us up on Reddit or Panther Lair, we're interacting. We lurk. We also post, you lurk. We get along. We hail to Pitt. We love it. And we're loving this season. One of the most fun seasons I've ever had in my lifetime as a Pitt fan. And I know everybody out there is enjoying it who's listening to the show. They're giving us great feedback, Vince, helping us do great shows every single week. And of course, the most help we get is from Pretty Easy Podcasts, our sponsor. You could go to prettyeasypodcast.com now to get your own podcast started, maybe for next football season, maybe for hoops, maybe for, you want to do a show about baking. Maybe you're an expat Pitt fan living somewhere. You have a great perspective on something. I don't know. Maybe you talk to a lot of people with funny accents. Whatever your podcast is about, you could go to prettyeasypodcast.com now, and you'll get a producer. You'll get the editing, the help to get your show on all the big platforms at a very, very affordable rate. It's so easy to do. All you have to do is go to prettyeasypodcasts.com.
And they do make podcasting pretty easy.
Sure do. And I will say that last week's game was anything but. It was frustrating for me here, still in Italy, in Habaduc Baldonado country. Vince actually watched it in his hometown in Roma, that game. And the first half started off where it was a 1 a.m. kickoff, I believe, out here. And I thought, oh, man, this game might fly by. I might get to bed at an okay hour, maybe before 3:30. Maybe if Pitt cleans this thing up real easy. Maybe I'll just leave and go to bed. No, not at all. Ends up, I think, ending at like 5:30 a.m. local time here. and it was the zaniest, most unlikely finish, I think, for me as a Pitt fan. And even national pundits were commenting on this game saying, well, that wasn't like all the other Pitt games I've ever watched. And they've probably watched like 3, 4, 5 of them, and they all end the same, Pitt blowing it. But they did not, because I don't know whether you want to say the rain helped them or it was just their day, Vince. Whatever the case may be, they're here now facing UVA this week with a chance to clinch the Coastal.
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure what happened in this game. I guess that's why we're here. We got to talk about it. Pitt up big in this game. Started off, I believe, 17-0, 23-7, going in the halftime. I believe they had over 300 yards of offense in the first half. Less than 100 in the second half, no points, and then just rise up in overtime and get him out there quickly. Alan, I don't know what happened to this offense in the second half. Just extremely slowed down and just could not get any points. I mean, did they get away from their game plan? I mean, what happened here?
I mean, there were some adjustments, I think, made by UNC, but I don't think anything too great. What I think happened was there was tightening up on the offensive line. They were playing maybe to not commit penalties up front, I think, and they were letting some things go, getting there. They just weren't in it like they were in the first, where they were just playing to dominate. And then also, I mean, just the receivers also probably tense and not being as crisp and not being as prepared. And then also, penalties costing them. And that it just really, they did everything they could to get UNC back in the game.
Yeah. You talked about the offensive line. Certainly in the second half, did not play great. No Gabe Hoy. Jake Cradle got hurt in the game. So, your whole, your right side of your offensive line, you're reshuffling guys there. Kenny was under pressure. I don't know if it was necessarily guys getting beat constantly. I think there was some very good coverage downfield. To me, it looked like UNC was just dropping guys back. And that's a situation where you either got to check out of it into a run or just hit the open guy underneath. And just inch your way down the field and keep the clock moving. But it seemed like Pitt was just going for it all there way too often in the second half for me.
Should we just chalk it up to the fact that Pitt missed that field goal at the end of the first half and it killed all momentum? Everyone saw the block and they just said, this isn't going to be a good second half. And they all went in with a poor mentality because of that one play. Block field goals really can change a game, even if you're way down.
Well, I'll say this, that was not, I cannot believe they kicked that field goal.
4th and 2 all season long. They've made the right call. Yeah. And the one time they don't, there's still time on the clock. There was still enough to try it.
Yeah.
And then maybe even closer field goal, or I don't know. You're already up by 3 scores.
If you had a kicker that was automatic, just guaranteed to make it, maybe that's one thing. But that's not Pitt's not in that situation, and you got Kenny Pickett, who's on 3rd and short, 4th and short. He's shown the ability to get those tough yards by any means necessary. So I didn't get that. I didn't like the field goal attempt earlier in the game, early in the first half on a 4th and short situation. Maybe they were spooked by going for it on the first drive where they didn't get it. I don't know, but you're going up against as great as the defense played, and they played excellent. You're going up against an offense that could come back on you in a hurry. And so I didn't get this. You needed as many touchdowns as you could possibly get. Mac Brown had some bad coaching decisions in this game, Alan. But Coach Narduzzi, he had some questionable ones as well.
Yeah, and I honestly, is for some of the questionable calls Narduzzi made, I wouldn't say he put Pitt in the terrible position so much as they probably did themselves with some Tight play in the second half,
Yeah,
I'll chalk it up to. But the fact that his defense showed up the way they did, really, this game could have really, if North Carolina played up to their potential offensively, wouldn't have even had to go to overtime. You have to talk about the big stop and the forcing them to kick the field goal at the end to tie it instead of going down the field and just scoring and taking the lead. Kenny Pickett's interception, probably the most deflating and upsetting
Oh my
moment of the
God.
season outside of the Western Michigan game. That interception, just really unbelievable. Didn't see it coming, especially considering the year Kenny Pickett's having. But really, was that the first play on that drive too? Just
Yeah, it was
surreal.
Yeah, and Abonaconda, he had blockers out in front. That's the worst part about that. It was not an accurate pass. Bad luck off his hand to go right up into the defender's hands.
Yeah, so you're at the game. I was wondering this. So is it because he wears the glove, or was it already wet outside? Because it felt like it wasn't raining yet. Was it?
He wears it all the time. I don't know what the issue was there. It just wasn't an accurate pass. The bottom line, it was not. I don't know. That was horrible.
Did the weather matter at all? I mean, because watching it on TV, I felt okay. Yeah, until overtime, it really legitimately was not a factor until
even then. I don't know. I get the wind was picking up, and for sure. But Pitt was able to go in there and get a nice touchdown with Lucas Kroll, who just came alive in that overtime after dropping several passes earlier in the game. So very impressive from that standpoint to weather the storm, so to speak. But I don't know. This play calling in the second half just really bothered me. Pitt had a lead. I want to say it was 10 points. Maybe it was only 3. I think maybe 10 at the time. And they just got North Carolina just scored. Pitt has the kickoff. First play, they run for 4 yards. Second play, they throw an incomplete pass after only letting 10 seconds or so run off the play clock. There was still at least 25 seconds on the play clock. And granted, Allen, at this time, I think there was less than 10 minutes in the game. And then you throw on third down and another incomplete pass, and you're giving the ball right back to them on a punt. Yeah, after you only held the ball for less than 30 seconds there. I mean, come on. I mean, we needed to maintain drives. That's what Pitt's done so well in these games this year. When they've had the lead, they've been able to just run out the clock. But for some reason, they got away from the run, specifically in that second half, and I'm not quite sure why. I thought that they could still run pretty sufficiently there, but they didn't, and I think that they paid for it.
I'm going to chalk this up to every team has their bizarro game every year, and they play kind of differently from how they have or who they are, and even their opponent might do so as well. And it was maybe a race to the bottom this game, and luckily UNC got there first, but with a little help from the rain, because I absolutely think that overtime, the rain poured down on them. It was just so jarring to that offense, who already got stymied into a field goal prior. They just weren't going to do it after Kroll really showed up huge. What a celebration. I mean, he should have been that excited. I thought he was going to have a seizure. He was going insane, but it was a big play. So great for him, especially after being hurt last year. But Pitt, every game has really been very Pitt 2021, who they are. Picking teams apart, and in the fourth quarter running down their throats or just really squeezing the clock. Doing that well all year long, and just maintaining offense even in losses. But in this game, it was. And then of course everybody was looking for a high scoring affair with quarterbacks slinging it all over the place, and really 30-23 final score with overtime. Adjusted for inflation, this was pretty much like a 17-10 game for who these teams are.
Yeah, we talked about this all year that eventually, as good as Pitt's offense has been, there is going to be a game where they're going to struggle. There is going to be a game where the defense has to step up and make enough plays to win this game. And boy, did they ever in this one. They held them down in the first half, really only let up one big play in the first half. It did good enough in the second half, got the big goal line stand when they needed, held them in overtime. Just a tremendous performance by them, Alan. Is this the best defense performance you've seen from Pitt all the year, and certainly in a while?
All season long, I mean, yeah, it's up there. I think the Virginia Tech game was pretty impressive, how they shut them down. But in terms of really the end of the game and where there's momentum and really uncertainty, I think, on the sidelines, and that fear of, oh no, we're gonna really fall into the trap that we as a university have so many times. Even the classes before us, Pitt will Pitt, people were saying on social, but the defense really putting an end to that at the end. Nope, you're only kicking a field goal here. We're going to overtime. Unbelievable finish to that fourth quarter, and then even crazier overtime.
Yeah, I guess a couple things I want to ask you was, we talked about before the game how that, quick passes over the middle is what North Carolina has killed us with. And they didn't really do a whole lot of them there. Was that just them not doing it, or was Pitt able to protect against that somehow?
No, I think that was them playing bad, not us playing well. As if you want to minimize it to that, because it really didn't look like Pitt was doing anything different than they've done all season long, except that Sam Howell and his receivers weren't just on the same page when it came to those over the middle throws.
Yeah, I don't know what North Carolina was doing in this game. The fact that they did not go for the win at the end and just kick the field goal. I felt pretty good after that decision. But if they went for it there, I think we were probably going to lose. I think there was a good chance of that. We were on the ropes there for sure. I was shocked that they kicked the field goal. I really was.
Really? So you're at the 3-yard line. You think they should have gone for it on the fourth down?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I think they should look at it from their side is they were what a 5-4 team going into this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're a 5-4 team, right? You're not playing for a championship.
You're playing for
you're
a bowl
on the
game.
road, playing for a bowl game, but you still have other chances the rest of the season. It was 2 games left. Go for it. You're right. Probably, like if I'm coaching, at least if I'm playing a video game and I'm playing a season mode or whatever, you're at this point in your season where this is your team. This is where you're at. I understand. Okay, if North Carolina is in contention for the division or in the conference, then be a little conservative, play for the overtime. And in college overtime, playing for college overtime isn't as risky, of course, as playing for NFL overtime. So you understand, but then again, on the road, who your offense is, maybe you do it. I don't know, but I'm glad they didn't, Vince.
Yeah.
I probably, I don't know. It's hard to say. I probably would have gone for it if I was Mac Brown, but it's a 50-50 call really at that point, especially from the 3, not the 1. Big difference.
Well, I guess. I mean, I don't know. This was the most stressful part of the whole game for me, to be honest.
Waiting to see what they would do.
Oh my goodness! I had a doctor's appointment already scheduled for the following day, and I have some horrible results coming back for me, and I don't know if they're skewed because of this or not. But I couldn't get over that. Them not going for it. I think we were really hurting there. We really were. But they went, they kicked it, and then they paid for it.
Absolutely. Maybe Mac Brown. See, this is why every team should have a weatherman to tell you how the wind's going to be blowing in just the next few minutes of the game. Because if they would have known that, maybe they would have gone for it.
Maybe. I don't
Sideline
know.
weatherman. Really, quite literally just rained all over UNC and totally and the announcers acknowledged it. Watching it on TV, you saw it, and then I'm sure you're in the stands and you felt it.
Oh
like
yeah,
from the sky.
there was rain blowing sideways at that point as soon as North Carolina got the ball there.
The only thing that would have made it even better is if it was literal hail and the skies were hailing to Pitt. It's the only thing that would have made it better.
That would have been good.
Pitt beats UNC in overtime, 30-23, though, in probably the most bizarre game of the season.
Has there ever been a game stopped temporarily for hail?
Oh, I think
Would
so.
they play through hail?
I think if it depends on the size of the hail. If you're getting golf balls falling from the sky, they'd probably stop it. I mean, they stop it for lightning. It's a similar hazard, especially this day and age. I'm sure they would. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen that.
Maybe we should be happy it wasn't hail. Yeah, because if they stopped it and waited, then UNC would have had a chance. They lose though. Pitt wins, and they get UVA now, Vince, and they get a handicapped Virginia Cavaliers football team. It's just again playing right into Pitt's hands when you look at the matchup. But of course, there's the execution part, and of course, Pitt has their own injuries they'll need to deal with on the offensive line, most notably going into this week.
Yeah. Jake Cradle and Gabe Hoy. Cradle for sure going to be out. It seems like Hoy. I guess we'll see what happens. Probably likely out as well. But you got a whole week of practice to get guys ready, and we have had other players step in and play during the year. So I'm not as concerned about that. But the big injury everybody talking about, Brendan Armstrong for Virginia, their quarterback. It seems like a real 50-50 shot. I've been looking for information everywhere on this, and I haven't been able to find any consensus or any hard evidence on whether he's going to play or not. This kid got hurt a few weeks ago in the second half against BYU, a game that Virginia ended up losing. And up until that point, they had really been rolling with a pretty good record and scoring a ton of points. We talk about how good Kenny Pickett and this Pitt offense has been this year. Well, Armstrong, he's been putting up just as good of numbers. And then, warmed up or tried to warm up against Notre Dame last week for the Hoos, and he ended up not playing in that game. Broken ribs is what he's got, Alan. Broken ribs. And their backup, Jay Woolfolk, who is apparently a baseball player trying his hand at football, from what I understand, did not look very good against the Irish. Got just absolutely swallowed up. So I would say, if Armstrong plays, I think Pitt's really got their hands full. But from what we saw from their backup, I think, not saying that we should take them lightly, but I think that definitely goes in our favor.
Yeah, you talk about teams having that one game where they're unlike how they've been the whole season. That was last week also for UVA. 3 points against Notre Dame in a season where they're putting up 48 in the 30s, putting up nearly 50 in a loss to BYU the week previous to last. But here they are now with injuries, and the quarterback, Brendan Armstrong, statistically, if UVA was a top tier team like the Pitt Panthers are, then he might be getting the love that Kenny Pickett's getting in terms of national media attention. But he's not, and he's hurt, missing this game. Maybe he's listed as questionable on UVA's side. They are also hurting at running back, Vince. Wayne Taulapapa is their leading rusher. He's hurt. And out. So they're going to be limping into this game a little bit offensively. And also their defense is also just compared to Pitt's defense, who has had their issues this year, I think is a way big handicap going into this as well. This is a team that's giving up over 30 per game as well, and that just doesn't bode well for them.
Yeah, I mean they these guys would have trouble tackling a scarecrow right now. They just cannot. They just cannot get anybody on the ground. I watched their past couple games pretty closely, and these guys are horrible on defense from what I've seen. So there is no excuse for this Pitt team not to go out there and put up a lot of points on them. Now their offense, that's going to be a different story. We said Woolfolk did not look good against Notre Dame, but he's going to have some more experience under his belt going into this game. Virginia's got a very strong offensive line. They start 5 seniors on there, so even though their running backs out, I still expect them to run the football very effectively, or at least try to. They're going to be capable of doing that. They do have some playmakers and wide receivers, Allen, but the big thing I think they have is their tight ends.
Aces, yes.
Keaton Thompson and Jacob Rodriguez. These two guys, they kind of line them up all over the field, kind of like that Bartholomew guy we have. They line these guys up all over. And Allen, they wear numbers 99 and 98. So that's always very concerning whenever you see something like that.
Yeah, that's tough. Whenever you got tight ends wearing numbers in the 90s, that means they're quality. And oh my, does Pitt like really not have the tools? I think to
I don't know.
That's this type of offense when it comes to the weapons they have. But the good thing is they might not be able to get them the ball.
I think
feels
that's
like a perfect type of offense to really destroy Pitt, because they're good at what Pitt's not good at, and that's throwing over the middle. Pitt's not good at covering the middle of the field. And of course, Pitt wants to press. And if you're pressing big guys like this, they might be able to toss the Pitt defensive backs off of their shoulders like nothing. Yep. So that is really a good matchup for UVA in this game. Whereas when Pitt's out there, I think they could eat them up on the ground or in the air. So Pitt has a lead going into this fourth quarter. Very confident we won't see something like last week, Vince, where they fall off even before then. Last week, of course, was the whole second half. So UVA needs this thing to be a crazy high-scoring affair where Pitt's just having an off day on defense. And I don't feel like it's going to happen, but there are a lot of unknowns coming from the UVA side that also maybe plays into their favor. If Brennan Armstrong plays, though, completely different ball game. And also the mentality of UVA going into it, if he plays, rallying around a guy like that, could be dangerous for Pitt. It'll be interesting. And I think we'll actually get the high-scoring affair we hoped for last week, this week.
Are we hoping for a high-scoring affair?
I'm not hoping for it, but I think we're going to get it, unlike last week.
Yeah, we'll see. If Armstrong plays, I certainly think so. I mean, this game is really going to put the coverage skills of our linebackers and safeties really to the test here. I think it's going to be difficult to cover these guys, but we'll see what happens. Woolfolk, I mean, I got to imagine that the playbook's going to be very limited for him and what he can do. Probably a good athlete, though. I would look for some runs from him, but if Armstrong's there, with broken ribs and not too mobile to begin with, I can't imagine he's going to be running too much. So that's a situation where you got to get to him, you got to get him on the ground and rough him up a little bit, because he's got that funky release. I don't know if you've seen this, Alan. He's got a real funky release, a little low release. So I'd love to see. If ever there was a good week for a sack fumble here, this could be it.
I mean, well, we've seen, if you're even pitching the ball and with that low trajectory, Servassier Davis, he's going to just pick it off and run it for a touchdown. So I'm hoping we see that maybe from Haba this week. It's going to be my last game I watch in Rome, Vince, before I'm back stateside. So this is the big one for Haba for me. I was at a Pittsburgh centric bar last week, not for the Pitt game, for the Steeler game, but they were talking about Haba there, and they actually feel like he could potentially build himself up into a pro player, but he's got to have that signature game, and I'm hoping for it this week.
Yeah, that could be this week.
A team that's playing with a backup maybe, or even a hurt QB, licking their chops on the defensive line. Of course, UVA going in this game with a defense, not one to really boast and brag about, but they do have one of the young bucks as their leading tackler, Nick Jackson at linebacker, Vince. So look out for him.
Well, that's always a little concerning.
It won't be a super kick party, but it could be a super scoring party. Also interesting, has Pitt played a 3-4 defense yet this year?
Well, Georgia Tech, I believe, plays a 3-3-5. So that's, somewhat close. But basically everybody except for Pitt is probably multiple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone else tries a little bit of something. But this will be cool to see Kenny Pickett up against that kind of defense too, because that's more of what he will see in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nowadays.
Yep.
So keep an eye out on that. And also, a side note, Kenny Pickett is getting some love now. They're starting to come out with the draft boards, right, on the big websites. Yep. You got your Kuiper Juniors and McShay's, Kenny Pickett, number one QB1 on some of these draft boards, first round pick.
How about
I don't know I don't know. Should we save it for this week? Do it this week or save it? But more surprising this season that we're finishing it up and Kenny Pickett is being talked about as a first-round pick, or that Pitt is going to win the ACC. I don't know what's more shocking to me.
They're both probably correlated together. If Pitt's going to win the ACC, Kenny Pickett's going to have a big year, and he certainly has. So, but we got to close out. We're getting ahead of ourselves, Alan. We got to close this game out on Saturday.
We could go back into the tape too. I think we might have even said as much early on in the season on one of these episodes. But yes, let's move on real quick. Men's hoops starting off with a whimper, Vince.
Yeah, not good. Losing to the Citadel. Just getting dominated by the Citadel. Really, losing to West Virginia in the backyard brawl. Did pick up a win earlier this week, but the Panthers right now, you got you lose your starting backcourt essentially, less than a week before the season starts. You look at this roster and it's just guys that a lot of guys just don't belong in the ACC right now. This is not a quality team. And it's a shame because for a couple reasons, I guess, because to me, yes, they have not been good over the past several years, but they've been steadily getting better. And you could see some improvement with Capel, but now it's like they're starting all over. And, he's recruited some good players, but then, these guys that, they transfer out, you talk about, your Trey McGowns and Xavier Johnson and Adese Tony, all those guys are gone. Didn't even get to see them out their full 4 years at Pitt. It's just so disappointing. And, you got off the court stuff, players fighting each other, players fighting cops, stealing cars. I mean, only 3 or 4 guys on this team that actually played last year on the team. Not much of a recruiting class to speak of. You lose your biggest recruit, decommits for next year that you've had your entire tenure here. I'm pretty sour on this team, Alan, if you can't tell. And Coach Capel, I had high hopes from him, but this does not look good, and it's like they're about to hit rock bottom again. And, I would certainly be looking to make a change at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more I can add to that, Vince. You basically hit the rundown of all the terrible stuff that's led this to pretty much be at the point of a disaster. And you also add the fact that we're in this new age of college athletics, especially in college hoops, where you're going to see the transfers. And so I think Capel has already proven he is, unable to hold on to the talent. Even though he can go out there and get it, it's also now, can you hold on to the talent and keep them disciplined enough to believe in the program? Can they be happy enough at the university to keep the program going? And it's going to take someone special, really special, to get Pitt back to where it was when it was in the Big East in hoops, now in the ACC. And that is kind of a Herculean task. It's really just going to be something that's some would say impossible. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it is going to be extremely difficult for someone to not come in here. I mean, they could go fire Jeff Capel and bring someone in, and I think the same stuff will happen. Maybe not with the off the court issues that we've seen, which is kind of shocking. But just when it comes to transfers and instability, that's going to be pretty much up and down college hoops. And you're going to need a perfect storm of recruits that come in and they gel so well together that maybe the ball can get rolling and it become an avalanche effect. But that's like hitting a lottery. They need some sort of salesman. Jeff Capel's not that guy.
I don't know. I mean, you need somebody who is extremely committed to, recruiting guys that are willing to stay here and develop. And that, I mean, that might be hard to find in today's day and age. But yeah, that's the only way they're going to get out of this mess. They gotta get some stability with the players. You can't just reshuffle and have, a whole new group of guys every single year. And it's not like this isn't a Kentucky or a Duke situation where you're bringing in 3 or 4, of the top freshmen in the country every year. You're doing this with cast-offs from from some low-level schools. I mean, that this is the kind of stuff Jamie Dixon was doing at the end of his tenure here, except he at least had some recruits that he would bring in, and he had a little bit of stability. This is just nothing.
Yeah, this is a low point, a new low point in a new era, and I mean, it's tough to really throw Jeff Capel out there and say we're done already, but with the season just starting. But here we go. I mean, it's college hoops, and again, another season's already begun, and it's already over. It feels like for the Pitt Panthers, and we'll be following along as painful as it's going to be. But yikes is really the word that I think sums everything up for me. That's where we're at with Pitt hoops. Not where we thought we'd be just a little bit ago when a couple of years ago, Jeff Capel coming in and the recruits he was bringing in and kind of seeing that maybe he'll be able to get guys to buy in. Did not happen. But, we are in the middle of a great football season and we could get back to that. Let's see what they're saying out there on the Pitternet.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
Nashu on the Sabre.com or the Sabre, however you say it, said people need to face the likely reality that BA, that's Brennan Armstrong, is done for the year, except perhaps a crappy bowl, and that UVA will finish the regular season 6-6 after losing its last 4 games. It was well within the realm of possibility with BA, given the quality of our quote-unquote defense, but without him 6-6 is a virtual certainty. And yes, I think that is a damning indictment of the staff on that side of the ball. I'm not in an all is fine mood. So Nashu, a UVA fan, giving up not only this Pitt game, but Virginia's final game. They're done. So Pitt's facing a demoralized fan base this week.
Yeah, I think that they kind of feel hopeless without Armstrong there. Yeah, without BA. Alan, they played. Maybe they thought they had something with this Woolfolk against Notre. They were going to have something with him going against Notre Dame last week, and a pretty deflating loss. Obviously, do you think that maybe they're blowed up because of that?
Yeah, I mean, they were going 1,000 miles an hour on offense all season long because their defense is no good, and then just the It's like you're trying to change tires while the car is moving. You can't. It's very dangerous and tough to do. And UVA is just kind of crashing into the end of this season. So I see what Nishu's talking about. Hopefully they're right, and Pitt handles and is a part of that collapse. Calico on Panther Lair now, coming back to our side of it, Vince. Calico said, wearing my cup Saturday. This is just a reflex of 40 years of being a Pitt fan. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm so pumped for Saturday, but have had my heart torn from chest so many times in 4 decades. I can't help myself. I have been watching some of my favorite games this week on YouTube, and the ones where Pitt didn't rip my heart out. Tuesday was 97 Miami. Yesterday was 97 WVU. Probably my fave based on where we were at the time and what it meant for the program. Today will be the Tangerine Bowl of 2001. If I can find it on there. Please, Pitt, please get it done this weekend and beyond. I can't take any more kicks to the Netherlands. Calico's plea to the Pitt Panthers to not screw this up, Vince.
Yeah, I certainly hope they don't. I'll tell you this from talking to people, Alan. There's a lot of confidence going into this game. Maybe too much confidence. I don't know. I'm a little concerned here. If
Why?
anything's bringing this, I don't
Why?
know.
They've got a quarterback. You had. Whatever you believe in above, whatever you Pitt fans believe in above was on Pitt's side last week, literally threw rain all over the opponent, giving us an injured opponent this week. I mean, come on. I mean, just enjoy it. I'm not wearing a cup for this. I'm going commando to watch this game.
Yeah, I like that.
It's all set up, Calico, but I guess you got the history there. That's what they're talking about, though, on the Pitternet, Vince. And, usually it's negative on the Pitternet. But in real life, when people are talking about Pitt around town, I feel like it's much more positive.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. There is, as I said, there's a ton of optimism around town right now. People are excited. Make no mistake about it.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Time to find out what the answers are saying.
Yo, you ever see a game like that?
What, where God saves the team?
Yeah, I mean, all that rain coming down on him, it's like God actually wanted Pitt to win the ACC in that.
I know, but the real question is, does Pitt actually want to win the ACC?
Hell to Pitt.
What the answers are saying.
So that's what the Yinzers are saying. Somehow, Pitt got by North Carolina. Massive game this weekend against Virginia, Allen. I want to talk to you a little bit, though, about some other games around the country and also these college football playoff rankings we got to address.
Oh, college football. Don't you dare be giving me 2 Michigan teams in the top 10. I don't care that they're far outside the top 4. It's really upsetting me that the Big Ten is so represented in the top 10, Vince, but it'll shake out. It's just early, and we're seeing, these rankings come out. Really, they're where they're supposed to be, unless you like not Power 5 football and you want to argue Cincinnati in the top 4. That's the big thing for this year. And of course, we have Ohio State and Michigan coming down the road, but it's all set pretty much where it should be. I don't know. I'm kind of an advocate to why not just instead just do a best of 3 with Bama and Georgia and get rid of the other teams?
Who knows? That may happen. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see if, say Georgia does beat Alabama, which in the title game, which I expect they will. If Alabama gets by the Hogs this weekend, but
big if,
Suey. Yeah. But Alabama, 2 losses. Are they going to get in over these other teams with only 1 loss? I cannot. I would be shocked if that happened. I mean, if that does happen, then it's like, why are we even playing these games? I mean, just have somebody rank them before the season starts and just go with that.
I mean, that if if that happens, then I can't wait for all the people to finally come out and talk about how this is all just about a money grab. It's about buyers and sellers, pimps and whores. If it's all predetermined anyway, why are we watching this when pro wrestling? There's plenty of that to be watching. But I don't think that's going to happen anyway. And I think Bama and Georgia are going to give us the quality matchup and the quality records, and they're going to earn their ways in. It's just going to be easy arguments to make, especially with history. Even though history shouldn't play a factor, I guess, in the voting, but I'm sure it does.
It does. Well, I'll tell you this right now: Cincinnati. There is no way you can tell me that they are the number 5 team in this whole country. If they were not ranked, preseason top 10 or whatever, based on previous year's results, there is no way that they would be ranked this high. There is absolutely no way. Yes, they did beat Notre Dame on the road, but they have played nobody in the rest of their schedule. They haven't looked great, especially these last several weeks. So I cannot believe there is definitely previous year's bias happening here. And that's why I just hope SMU puts a stop to all this week.
Yeah, I know you are, but I don't think that's going to happen. This is. I knew this was going to turn into a big Vince polls for SMU episode. But good thing those aren't. That game isn't even on our rundown for the big games this weekend.
It is not.
More important for us is Wake Forest at Clemson, Vince. That's the big game besides Pitt, Virginia. 4-point favorites the Tigers are at home.
Yeah, I know this line has raised some eyebrows from some people.
No Justin Ross, surgery, going to the NFL too.
Yeah. So the scenario here is, if Wake Forest wins this game, they are in the ACC title game if they win it. Now, if they were to lose, they'd still be ranked first in the Atlantic Division. However, if they would drop that last game the season, which is at Boston College, then Wake Forest has a possibility of not making it if Clemson would actually go to the championship game, I believe. Now, the NC State also only has 2 losses there, so I'm not quite sure how that works out. Maybe there's some 3-way tie thing that could happen, but to quickly summarize, I guess, if Wake Forest wins, they're in. If they lose, there's possibility that they're not. And to see Clemson as a 4-point favorite here, I don't know. I mean, Clemson offense obviously not good, but their defense is still one of the tops in the whole country. Wake Forest scoring on everybody, but can't stop anybody. I don't know what to make of this game, Alan. It is at Clemson. Maybe that has something to do with the line.
I'm interested in the weather for this game now. I'm big on weather going into games from now on. So however that shakes out, I don't know. I mean, Clemson. Has Clemson ever put up 40 in this season at all? Have they been able to against South Carolina State?
Well, they played. They played UConn last week.
Yeah, but Jim Mora Jr. wasn't in the building yet, so
no, he was not.
That doesn't count. This is a tough one, and I'm not even going to talk about like what we want to happen just yet because we need to get by UVA, Vince. But I'm going to say we were kind of stomping on history bias when it comes to the playoff, but I'm going to go into my history bias here, and also the fact that they're the home team, and I like defense in a game like this. And Wake Forest is going to be, because we're down that home stretch, because of who their opponent is. Like, luckily Pitt had Clemson earlier in the year, because you play someone like this with the pedigree, your players might go out there and play great, but they're going to have tense moments where they might tighten up and make a mistake. I feel like that could happen for Wake Forest, so I'm picking Clemson.
Yeah, I really don't know what to do here. I guess the fact that I don't understand why Clemson's favored by over a field goal, I think would make me, I guess, lean on that side. But I honestly don't know. Maybe people just don't believe in Wake Forest. I don't know. I'm curious to see where this one ends up.
Yeah, this is interesting. But also considering Clemson is so bad on offense, it's not even a joke. It's not an overstatement.
Yeah.
DJ, you can't even throw for 250 against UConn. Threw a pick against them. Like had a pretty awful line last week against the 1-9 UConn Huskies. Even though Clemson smashed on that team, just not very good on offense, Vince.
Oh,
So. How they keep up with Wake Forest is an interesting thing, and it's probably through their defense.
uh,
But I like it, and especially at home, that's going to
well,
play to their advantage.
I,
And they still have a hope of getting to the ACC title game.
I mean, if Wake Forest does have a very good offense, Sam Hartman, great QB1 there. If Wake Forest scores over 20 points, can Clemson win this game?
Yes, yeah, I think Clemson's going to. I think Clemson could score 21 in this game. I think that so they
What if
got to
they?
hold to just 20 points,
All right.
and I think they can do that. I mean, Wake Forest's offense is good, but are they like unstoppable, one of the great
No,
college offenses of all time? Good? No.
no.
They're efficient and quality, but have they played a defense like Clemson yet this year even? Another question.
I don't think
Another thing
so.
to look at. I don't think so. But if they win, how far up the college football playoff rankings do you think they go?
Oh, well, let's see who's above them. Okay, you got OU or Oklahoma State, rather. They're playing. Who are they playing this week? I don't think it's anybody too terribly good. I mean, Michigan State's gonna lose to
Texas
Ohio
Tech
State.
is Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma State has Texas Tech.
Okay. Well, Michigan State's playing Ohio State, which is the next game we're going to talk about here. And Ohio State's favored by 19 at home. Assuming they take care of business against Michigan State, you'd have to think Wake Forest, if they were to win, would definitely pass them. Something's got to give there. I would say, if Michigan State were to beat Ohio State, I could make a strong argument that Wake Forest should pass Ohio State in that situation. Eh, and of course, I'm going to say if SMU beats Cincinnati, then Wake Forest will jump over them.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean that they would, but I don't know if that's happening. I could see some of the other stuff. Maybe I won't give you that yet. There's a lot of danger on that Wake Forest offense. A.T. Perry, Roberson, their receivers are very talented. Sam Hartman's having a hell of a year, and I don't know. I guess I'm hoping the ACC looks strong. The ACC should look strong, so I guess I should root for Wake Forest to win and climb up the ladder, because also it brings more prestige to Pitt's ACC title if they win, correct? Right? Do we want to win an ACC championship in a year where there was not a top 10 ACC team?
You already beat Clemson. You don't have a need to really beat them again, do you?
I want to see Wake Forest, so I'm rooting for Wake in that game, Vince. Let's move on to the Big Ten game. Michigan State, Ohio State, 19 at the Horseshoe for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I Michigan State cannot stop the pass. I think Ohio State, yes, if they execute in the red zone, which they have struggled with in a few games this year, I think they should have no problem here. I don't think I'm going to get involved with this number because, with Michigan on deck, I guess it's possible that they may, take their foot off the gas a little bit at the end of this game. But I don't see how Michigan State, they're not going to be able to hold Ohio State down enough in this game to make it close.
Oh no. That and I like the 19. I would go for a 3 touchdown win over this team. End of the year Ohio State against end of the year Michigan State. Give me the Buckeyes at home all the time, especially when there's so much to play for Michigan State. They don't know what they're doing here, Vince. Come on. This is an easy cover for me. Really just a bummer. I felt like the only bummer about it, I'm happy to see the Spartans lose in this, but I'm also bummed to see Ohio State being where they're at, considering you and I watched them together lose to Oregon.
Yeah.
We watched them together lose to Oregon this year. That was very entertaining, hoping their season would be over. But unfortunately, they're right back in it where they always are. And this game is a big one for the Big Ten. Not so much for us. I'm more interested in Utah, Oregon, where the Duckies are dogs on the road.
Yeah, anywhere from 3 to 3.5, depending on where you're shopping. Utah has been tough as of late. That's a very tough place to play in Salt Lake City. I'm a little surprised Oregon's this big of an underdog here, but Oregon hasn't really been getting a whole lot of credit. It seems like nationally, yeah, they're ranked, number 3 in the country or so, but I don't think they're really getting the respect that they deserve around the country. I'm going to be picking Oregon in this game, although I do think it's going to be a close game for sure.
And Cliffwood, New Jersey's own Anthony Brown representing in this game, standing out big, tall, climbing out from the shadow of Thibodeau there. I mean, the Ducks are more than one man. And I think we'll find that out in this game where they take a stranglehold of the Pac-12, which is such a tough conference. It's like the ACC, maybe one team doesn't stand out. It's because they're all so good, right?
Maybe not all of them, but yeah, there's a lot of quality teams for sure. Both these teams are pretty good. I will say that. Utah ranked number 23 in the playoff game ranking, so that's not. Yeah, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Hell no, not at all. I mean, they're not as good as Pitt, but in a very entertaining game that'll be. Of course, We'll round it out. UVA at Pitt. It's a 14.5 for the Panthers, who I believe are 8-2 against the spread this year, Vince?
I don't have that number in front of me, but it sounds correct. I believe. I guess every game we've won, we've covered.
2. Yeah.
No. Every game we've won, we've covered. To me, this line here, this is kind of saying to me, I think the odds makers must think that Armstrong is not going to play, because I can't see how this line would be that high if they didn't think that. This is a tall number, but I'll say this: if Armstrong does not play, I think Pitt covers this game pretty easily. I'm going to say, but if he doesn't, I still think Pitt will win, but I think it's going to be much closer than this. I think it'll be a one-score game if that's the case.
Well, they'll move the line down if he plays, right? So,
I would imagine that. Yeah, I would think so.
And either way, I'm picking Pitt to cover. So if it's at 14.5 now, I'm picking them to cover, because if Pitt wins, they cover, which is what they've done all season long, baby. And they're playing a really bad defense too. So
yeah, they are.
Maybe they win. I'm going to say for a score 59 to.
Oh my God.
38. Let's go for that high scoring affair with a cover.
Okay, I'm going to say 48 to. I'm going to say 48-27 Pitt.
Only 48. Did you see Lucas Kroll last week? He's a whole new. It's like having a new player in the middle of the year. He's like a newly reinvigorated tight end. He's out there. I'm telling you, he's going to crush him. He's not going to drop balls or fumble anymore.
I don't doubt it. I do expect. I want maybe thing for the lack of not scoring as much. I do think Pitt's going to get back to running the ball in this game, particularly in the second half. I could see that happening. I think they got to. That's what brought them to the dance. Especially in these second halves, have been so critical. I see that happening again. It just grinding some clock out, moving the ball, getting a late score.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to also predict all the touchdowns, all the points, except, of course, extra points and field goals, will be scored by Bartholomew and Kroll. I'm telling you, you're going to see maybe 4 tight ends responsible for all the points in this game.
You might be right. It would not surprise me.
Pitt and Virginia ready to put put some fireworks out there this weekend as the ACC winds down play with only a couple of weeks to go. And we are about to wind down this show as we go into maybe Coastal clinching weekend, Vince. Fingers crossed until they're bloody. Please give us this so next week we can really have a whole lot of fun with a Syracuse matchup.
Yep, this is what it's all about. Pitt going for a championship at home. Everybody got to come out to Heinz Field for this one. This may be the last championship won in this city, specifically at home, in a very, very, very long time. So I hope everybody gets down there to see this one. It's going to be a huge game, 3:30. That's what it's all about.
You know, more people should be saying that in public, I think. Because maybe the urgency would get more butts and seats, more people to realize, you're right, Vince, it could be the last championship won in the city of Pittsburgh, in front of Pittsburgh fans, for until who knows how long. And you never know, but really it feels like it's going to be a while. We need some more advocates like that saying those words. We need Sally Wiggin to get out there, Peggy Finnegan to tell the public, people that people trust and will respect their opinions. Bob Pompiani, if you're listening, tell them all. And, I want to also tell, Mike down at my mechanics down at Greenfield, you tell everybody who comes in the shop, no one here in this town might win a championship for a while. You better go to this game. You better go watch this game. You better get ready.
Do you think in 5 years' time, when Sid and Gino are long gone, and there's only a couple hundred people in the PPG Paints Arena, and the Red Sox are threatening to move the Penguins to Portland, and people are going to be saying,
Portland, Maine, too.
Maybe. People are going to be saying, man, I wish I would have gone to that Pitt, Virginia game to see that championship.
It could be a trivia question on some future game you're watching. Aflac trivia. Who was the last Pittsburgh team to actually win a championship in this town in front of the people here? They're probably going to say Pitt Panthers 2021. Just saying. You're right, Vince.
From your lips to God's ears.
Bino Cook's tears.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening and hailing with us. Remember, follow us at H2P Show on Twitter. Hail the number 2 Pitt Podcast if you want to email us at gmail.com. Hail2Pitt Podcast at gmail.com. We're here every week, hailing to Pitt, talking Panthers. What a football season it's been. It's continuing to be. Vince, you got anything left before UVA?
All I got to say is hail to Pitt.
Me too. Let me do that as well. Hail to Pitt, everybody. We'll see you next week.
You still think I'm crazy?